The poppy. It's a plant. Throughout history, the poppy has been cultivated for its myriad uses, ranging from aesthetic, to culinary, to medicinal. Poppy flowers are renowned for their striking color and beauty, and are national symbols in many countries. Poppy seeds are utilized in a number of dishes across a number of cultures. And poppy capsules can be cut to release a sticky white latex, opium. Opium has been utilized from the dawn of history throughout the whole of Eurasia due to its powerful pain-relieving effects. Medicine throughout history was rather hit or miss, but the emphasis and utilization of a powerful pain reliever was a definite hit. It is a shame, then, that opium is one of the most addictive substances on Earth. Once in the body, opium blocks the release of pain neurotransmitters in the brain. A surge of dopamine is released as well, and your dumb, reptilian brain interprets this as the easiest way of getting these neurotransmitters, rapidly leading to addiction. Opium and opioids are a double-edged sword. Their ability to alleviate severe pain has definite utility, but it must be properly tailored for each patient in order to prevent addiction and dependence. Anyways, here in the States, we're currently going through the opioid crisis, where people are dropping like flies thanks to the misuse of opium-derived medication. Let's take a look at it. To discuss the opioid crisis, we must first discuss the pharmaceutical company Purdue Pharma and its owners, the Sacklers. In 1952, brothers Mortimer and Raymond Sackler purchased Purdue and ran it along with their older brother, Arthur. Initially, the company produced fairly benign medications such as laxatives or antiseptics. However, in 1996, Purdue received FDA authorization for OxyContin. OxyContin billed itself as an extended-release pain relief medication, something that could alleviate chronic suffering. This pain relief would be achieved through the active ingredient in OxyContin, an opioid known as oxycodone. Compared to opium's active ingredients, oxycodone has a similar structure, binds to the same sites, and has the same effects. Oxycodone is a very powerful opioid, a very addictive opioid. With that in mind, how did Purdue market their new medication? Firstly, Purdue began hosting medical conventions for thousands of doctors across the country free of charge. The primary topic of discussion was OxyContin and why doctors should prescribe this new wonder drug to their patients. Tactics such as this have been empirically shown to increase prescriptions of such drugs, and OxyContin definitely wasn't an exception. In addition, Purdue enacted something of a guerrilla marketing campaign, handing out shirts, hats, and plushies adorned with OxyContin as a way of getting the word out about the latest Schedule II opiate. Purdue was busy outside of the Oxy conventions as well, actively seeking out physicians and patients for the sale and consumption of this drug. For potential patients, they began a coupon program where one could get a 7 or 30-day prescription of OxyContin for free. Now, call me crazy, but this sounds remarkably similar to a drug dealer offering potential customers a free hit so they can come back for more. Must be a coincidence, I suppose. Back on the topic of doctors, Purdue sent out promotions and sales representatives to encourage their prescription of OxyContin. These early video promotions weren't sent to the FDA for approval, an oversight by Purdue's own admission, and when the FDA finally got around to them, they found the videos inaccurate. Regarding their direct marketing, Purdue went for doctors that tended to prescribe opiates in general, and in some cases, offered compensation to further prescribe OxyContin. Fun fact! This is highly illegal, and Purdue even pleaded guilty to related charges later on. Unfortunately, this doesn't change the fact they were brazen enough to do it in the first place. Speaking of brazen, Purdue advertised OxyContin as less addictive than conventional opiates.
Less than 1% of patients taking opioids actually become addicted.
Their grounds for this claim were a number of studies related to opioid use, and that the delayed release action of OxyContin made it harder to abuse. However, both of these reasons were unsurprisingly bogus. The papers they cited covered opioid use for short-term ailments in highly controlled environments, not for long-term or daily use. If you were to look at papers covering chronic opioid usage, you'd find that addiction rates were much higher than the sub 1% Purdue reported. Some of these papers were even available before OxyContin's release, meaning Purdue was ignorant of these findings or selectively represented their data. Regarding the delayed release action of OxyContin, this rationale was a red herring. The body of scientific knowledge has known that consistent use of opium or opiates is extremely addictive, no matter the medium it is delivered. In the end, Purdue's blatant misbranding was grounds for a massive fine, along with charges in 2007. By this time, however, OxyContin was already raking in billions, and the negative aspects of its proliferation had begun to metastasize. Addiction caused by OxyContin is unsurprising, but its potential for abuse was unexpected. For starters, the slow-release action of OxyContin only works if the pill is taken properly. If you were to crush up the pills and snort them, it's basically a shot of heroin. The end result is people getting addicted to the pills and hooked on the high. While this is an issue in its own right, problems really kick in when the prescriptions stop. Opioid addicts need to get a fix one way or another, and illicit substances like heroin or fentanyl are the typical go-to. As a result, production, purchase, and consumption of these drugs skyrocketed, and thanks to the ease of ODing on them, so too did deaths. Numbers vary, but from 1999 to 2019, 500,000 deaths have been attributed to opioid abuse, and they aren't in a downtrend either. This is to say nothing of the human costs associated with the crisis overall. The torrent of opioids throughout this country has broken families apart, left people on the streets, and burdened our medical infrastructure. We may never know the full extent of the opioid crisis, nor the costs associated with it, but we have a few estimates. To describe the opioid crisis as expensive would be an understatement. Aside from the material and physical misery of an opioid addiction, people shooting up heroin or some other drug typically aren't productive members of society. If you're tweaking on the street or in some drug den, you aren't working a job, you're running in with the police, and you're in and out of the ER. It's important to sympathize and help these people who are down and out, but the costs of doing so add up, and were it not for this crisis, there wouldn't be nearly as many people addicted in the first place. In addition, if someone dies an early death, it means they can't work the rest of their miserable life earning money for some megacorporation, and their lost economic contributions add up. Taking all factors into account, the opioid crisis has cost the American people hundreds of billions annually, and after 20 years we're well into the trillions. It may be ghoulish or detached to look at the consequences through a financial lens, when the lives lost are of greater importance. However, it's worth noting how everyone has had to suffer and pay thanks to this crisis, in one way or another. It also puts a price tag on this suffering, which means legislators and judges can start pointing fingers. We've discussed the role of the Sacklers in Purdue in laying the groundwork for this epidemic. In spite of their vehement denial of wrongdoing, numerous lawsuits have been levied against both. As it stands, both are currently in a legal and financial limbo. Purdue filed for bankruptcy in 2019 to shield itself from thousands of lawsuits, and the Sacklers were charged $4.5 billion in damages in 2020. Given that this granted the Sacklers civil immunity from OxyContin cases, not everyone was pleased with this decision, and the settlement was actually thrown out in December 2021. While a hopefully better deal is being worked on, the final verdict regarding Purdue and the Sacklers has yet to be reached. However, one positive to come from the trial and exposure of the Sacklers is that their name is now reviled the world over. The Sackler family has been making substantial donations to museums for decades now, something to support their artistic interests and get their name down for something good. Because the Sacklers are openly reviled now, numerous galleries and museums have been removing the name from their associated exhibits. Some galleries are even refusing their blood money, just so they won't further taint their prestige with a vile name. The bottom line is that the Sacklers are persona non grata writ large, and they will not be remembered fondly by history. The downfall of the Sacklers in Purdue is a definite positive. Now there's all the other opioid companies out there. The unfortunate reality is that Purdue is but one of many megacorporations dealing in opioids and contributing to this crisis. From American businesses like Johnson & Johnson or McKesson, to foreign groups like Cardinal or Teva, all chose to water the rancid crop Purdue had sown, and the world at large was worse off for it. In summary, the actions of these groups were abhorrent, and we would do well to never forget their profiteering nor the avaricious origins thereof. The only positive note left to be had is that many of the aforementioned pharma companies are being sued for their contribution to this crisis, and these suits are going well. Public perception is greatly soured towards prescription opioids as well, along with the vampires peddling them, and hopefully as more comes out about these corporations and their rapacious management, they remain in such sordid regard. Hey, first off, like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to grow the Snake Niche, so share the vid around as well. With that out of the way, thank you for reaching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it or learned something. I'm really pleased with the response and support thus far regarding the vids I've been making. I picked up video making mostly on a whim, but it's something I've grown to enjoy a great deal, and I like to think I've been making something interesting and worthwhile. I also want to thank Arsu, Joey, Walter, and CTO for being huge supports with these vids. With that, thanks again for watching.